This is Seymour Rocks reporting from down under. I just want to do something very, very brief because it's on my mind from my own blog. Just some of the stories coming from the Middle East and the conflict between America and Iran. Um, it's really hard to see which way things are going. I mean, the world is against this. The majority of the world, there are people even within America that are against this war. And then Time magazine is saying it's not going to happen, and then the Iranians are not going to are saying it's not going to happen. But preparations are being made, and if I was to place a bet, I would say it looks like 2003 all over again, and except this time without a coalition of the willing, because there's very few that are willing, except for Saudi Arabia and the Arab neighbours, and of course Israel will be only too happy for this to happen. So the first headline is Saudi Arabia ready to confront Iran with all strength and determination. Riyadh will confront Tehran with all strength and determination if need be. The kingdom's foreign minister has warned after the Crown Prince received a call from Washington in which the sides discussed ways to ensure regional security, in inverted commas. Tehran seeks to destabilize the entire region, blah, blah, blah. So there's that. And then on the other side of the equation, we have this. This comes from Zero Hedge. Iraqi parliament to vote on bill that would ban the United States military troops from Iraq. So Iraq is dead against this. And yeah, so Iraq has spent the better share of the last 16 years under US military occupation. Despite this, time and time again, US-Iraqi relations have come to be defined by US hostility towards neighbouring Iran and Iraq's desire not to get mixed up in that. So there's that. And this comes from oh, wait a minute, sorry, no, that's the same one. Yeah, I think this is what I was looking for. This is from Russ Fort. Iran calls on Iraqi militia to be ready for war against America. The special unit commander of the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps held a meeting in Baghdad that could be considered as a signal of preparation for the mobilization of Iranian forces in the region. British media reported, etc., etc. So according to British newspaper, the Iranian general told his supporters in Iraq to prepare for a proxy war. Two intelligence sources say Qasem Soleimani persuaded representatives of militias loyal to Iran, which could mean the mobilization of Iran's forces in Iraq. So there's that. And then, meanwhile, in Israel, Israel attacked Syria 2 consecutive nights while hosting Eurovision finals. The Syrian government says Israel has launched airstrikes on the country twice in less than 24 hours amid a broader pressure campaign against Iran and its allies currently being waged by the United States that has sent regional tensions soaring. Then Exxon evacuates all foreign staff from Iraqi oilfield on security concerns. At the end of a week that's witnessed a dangerous US military buildup in the Persian Gulf amid anti-Iran war rhetoric, ExxonMobil has evacuated all of its foreign staff from Iraq's West Qurna 1 oilfield, flying them to Dubai until the situation is secure, according to a company statement. Total staff evacuated is about 60, cites Reuters, and comes days after the US ordered all non-emergency personnel to leave the US embassy in Baghdad in an extremely rare security move, claiming intelligence that shows Americans are under immediate threat from Shia militias backed by Iran. So it's not looking very reassuring in my mind. You'd have to almost kind of be indulging in wishful thinking, I think. And I think there's a lot of that around. So where we are. Yeah, and then from the Iranian side, top Iran commander invokes 9/11 to say US is frail. A full intelligence war is on. Iran is currently in a full intelligence war with the United States, according to statements by the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, Major General Hossein Salami, in Saturday. We're in full intelligence war with the United States and the enemies of the Islamic Republic. This war is a combination of psychological warfare, cyber operations, military operations, diplomacy, fear, and intimidation. Salami, who became head of Iran's elite military force last month, was quoted as saying by Fars news agency. He further noted Americans in the region face great risks at this point. America has lost its power, and even though they look powerful, they are frail. And despite all the war preparations, they'd have to go along with that. They're just having epic failures from Syria to Venezuela, and I think with this as well. So, where are we? And then the final thing I want to do is to go through this article, which I put together earlier this morning. Bahrain asks its citizens to leave Iran and Iraq immediately. US allied Bahrain warned its citizens on Saturday against travel to Iraq and Iran and asked those already there to return immediately for their safety. State news agency BNA said the Bahrain Foreign Ministry cited unstable regional circumstances, dangerous developments and potential threats, according to BNA. So that looks like kind of, it sort of reflects the build up towards war in 2003 with some major differences. So we've got this. The same, Bahrain orders its citizens to leave Iraq and Iran. Now, I'm of two minds about Hal Turner's coverage, because he's kind of shown his colours and being quite sort of sympathetic to Israel and dead against Iran. But his intelligence, I think, is quite good, and at least, if nothing else, it gives an indication of American intentions. So, the first thing, Saudi-led Gulf states approved deployment of US troops in the Gulf region. Saudi-led Gulf states voted today to approve deployment of US troops in the Gulf region. Reports coming in from Arab media in the last hour that Saudi Arabia and Gulf states have agreed to a US request to redeploy troops in Gulf waters and on land. The redeployment request was similar in nature to the number of troops sent before Operation Desert Storm in 1991. At that time, the US sent 168,000 total US troops. Today's action allegedly calls for 210,000 US troops and an undisclosed number of Allied troops. Okay, and then this was kind of a closed article, but I've kind of reproduced some. Hal Turner saying that there is a very high military activity all over the Persian Gulf this morning. That's today. Elements from the US and other countries have numerous air assets active, and Iran has numerous air assets active. Iran also has intense ground activity around surface to air, surface to ship, and surface-to-surface missile sites throughout their country. And then he repeats that Exxon Mobil staff are being evacuated, and this is a map to show all the activity in the region. US diplomats warned Saturday that commercial airliners flying over the wider Persian Gulf faced the risk of being misidentified amid heightened tensions between the US and Iran. It also said aircraft could experience interference with its navigation instruments and communications jamming with little or no warning. Sky News Arabia correspondent quotes an Iraqi source familiar with the situation. Embassies of several foreign countries may follow the step of Washington and the evacuation of non-essential staff from Iraq. There's threat dangers reported by US intelligence as, quote, off the scale. US FAA issues global warning of military action in Persian Gulf airspace. The Federal Aviation Administration had issued a warning to US commercial airliners flying over the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, warning heightened military activities and increased political tensions in the region present an increasing and inadvertent risk to US civil aviation. He's claiming that dozens of Iranian families, some of them officials, entered Iraq during the past 2 days and settled in Kadhimiya and Karbala in anticipation of a possible US strike. And then US begins deployment of ground troops to Saudi Arabia. Bahrain issues another statement talking of very grave developments today in the region. There are crisis meetings being held, which Turner says is very rare on a Saturday, and further meetings hurriedly being coordinated with international allies for later today. And then this is from yesterday. His headline is Kuwait moving to full war footing after briefing by US officials. The Kuwaiti National Security Council have just had an emergency meeting after a briefing by US officials. So Kuwait and not Qatar, anyway, Kuwait is and Bahrain, major US allies. I suspect after events in the last year that Qatar is not, but there's been very little about that in the news of late. So the public is saying the hours and days ahead are perilous and that the risk of regional war is unacceptably high. They're moving to a full war footing within Kuwait to support the United States and its allies against Iran. The present situation in the region due to rising tensions between the US and Iran is perilous, head of Kuwaiti Parliament Marzouk Al-Ghanim said following a crisis meeting with government officials. He added that the government confirmed readiness to handle emergencies in case of the eruption of war in the region. Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Trade, Electricity and Information explained their contingency plans at the meeting held behind closed doors, etc., etc. Risk of regional war is very high, an alarming Kuwaiti statement to the press. The situation is alarming and spiraling out of control. We're expecting war in the Gulf, the Kuwaiti government press statement, etc. And then, what's this say? War against Iran will lead to World War III. Any attack on Iran would mean the elimination of Israel within half an hour, being broadcast on Iran media outlets now. The war against Iran will pave the way for a third world war, and any attack on Iran would mean the destruction of Israel within half an hour, said Mujtaba al-Noor, head of Iran's nuclear committee. He pointed out that the United States can start the war, but the end will not be in her hand. pointing out that the US military targets in the waters of the Gulf will remain only a hill of ash, noting that before the dust settles, any attack on Iranian missiles will hit the heart of Tel Aviv. So that's the way it's looking. If I had to kind of read the tea leaves, it makes me feel slightly anxious, and that's because of the absolute nutcases that are running the United States at the moment. There's no sense of diplomacy or anything. So I will leave it at that. And